Possibly among the most exciting eyeshadow palettes of this year is, in terms of packaging as well as collaboration, is the I Heart Revolution. Now that's what I call makeup palette. Now there are 3 palettes in the series. This one is 1980s, there's 1990s as well, and noughties. Now that's what I call music series, the compilations. Let's just call it now music compilations. So they started in 1983, and this year, I think it was in June or July, the 100th compilation album came out. So that is why this palette came out as well. Revolution Beauty have collaborated with the Now series, with the Now label, to bring out this palette, to sort of commemorate the 100th album. Now, my music tastes are 80% from my dad and 20% from my own. The 80% that came from my dad are entirely, rock, and more rock, classic rock. Rolling Stones, Dire Straits, that sort of thing. He would never let me listen to boy bands, even as a teenager. It was, Mick Jagger all the way. So I remember him getting the Millennium series from Now and, the Dance series, some of those albums as well. He used to take me to the record store all the time. For those interested, the remaining 20% of my music tastes are entirely musical theatre. Les Miserables, Phantom of the Opera, that sort of thing, and opera itself. La Traviata being possibly my favourite opera. So that's my music taste, if anybody wants to know. Never pop, never boy bands, wasn't allowed to listen. Instead, it was all rock, classic rock. Now, another very exciting palette, the only sort of comparable palette that we've seen before is the Balm Jovi from The Balm. Incidentally, this is a gift from my dad, back when I just started getting into makeup. The Rockstar Face palette, Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi, I think my first album was, my first single was It's My Life from Bon Jovi, that I can remember. The first one that I bought was It's My Life. So this one is Living on a Stair. Now the problem with the Balm's palette, now I'm keeping it as a collectible, I don't really use it much, is that the shades are very, very neutral. Not much fun and, not much rock and roll to the shades themselves. Apart from the names, you've got Alice Cooper, Led Zeppelin, and so on, and Allegro, and Metallica, and Moderato, and so on. That's quite fun. However, the 3 now, that's what I call makeup palettes, are a lot more fun in terms of colors. This one is the 1990s. That's, very, very purple themed, as you can see. Now, this is a noughties one, very neutral, warm neutral. You're beginning to get into that never-ending warm neutral phase in which we all are right now. And this is a 1980s palette. Now, I'll talk about packaging in a minute, but before that, I want to show you the shades. Very, very, very 1980s there. Now, let's talk about packaging. This is the external box. So these are shaped like, a cassette player. And you have the decade there. And behind there are no shade names, there are just numbers. So you can see this is 11, 12, 13. So inside, this is the palette. Plastic, obviously, but again, the packaging, very, very like a cassette player, very nice. And those are the shades themselves. These are arranged like an equalizer, as you can see. And I love that the colors are all sort of, sorted into color families there. Greens here, blues here, purples here, that sort of thing. So don't let this palette scare you. Now, the one problem I have with this palette is that the pans are a bit too small. So you need to use, really small brushes to get the job done. So they're sorted into, there are 27 eyeshadows. They're sorted into Let's Dance, New Romantics, Electric, Wild Frontiers, Throwback, and Neon. The neons aren't, very neon-y enough to be scary. That is quite wearable. Now, I am wearing the New Romantics from this palette to get a, purpley look done. So I'll demo that in a minute, but before that, let's see what Revolution Beauty has to say about this palette. Hang on. Now, these palettes are £10 each. The 1980s saw a new wave of dance music and a celebration of big, bold, and beautiful makeup. We're bringing back the 80s with the ultimate music and makeup collaboration. We've teamed up with the legendary label Now Music to bring you a brand new bold eyeshadow palette. It doesn't matter what year you were born, this palette will inspire you to experiment with pops of color. High time we did that. The biggest hits are the electric blue hues, pink assortments and throwback greens. Those were the in colours for the eyeshadow in the 1980s. This era was all about more is more. Don't hold back. The trick to rocking this look is to go big on colour and own it. Now that sounds very scary, but I find that these colours are actually quite wearable. So these are actually collectibles, you know, these palettes. First of all, this is entirely in collaboration with the Now Music label. So there's that. And these are also PETA certified cruelty-free in case that's important to you. So now let's talk about the inside. You have a mirror. Now, one thing, apart from the size of the pans and that there are no shade names in particular, I don't really like is that this isn't very sturdy here. So I have a nasty feeling if I hold it up like this, the hinges here are going to give away and I'm going to have a smash on my hands. Now, if you have been following me on Instagram, linked below, you must have seen on Insta stories that I told you that this palette arrived with this one broken. So I tried to repair it and then ended up ruining this one as well. So these two are not going to swatch properly because I have bought them up with the isopropyl alcohol and my very clumsy, klotzy skills. So I have contacted Makeup Revolution about this and they will be looking into it. I'll update that in the description box below if I hear back. It's the weekend. I mean, this video is being recorded over the weekend, so I suppose I'll hear from them on Monday. Now the colours. Now, very quickly about the eyeshadows themselves, there is one foil per, set here. Now, this one's a foil, this one's a shimmer, and all the others here are matte. Again, this one's a sort of foil, this one's a shimmer, and the other two are matte. And here you have a foil, and the others are matte. Again, here you have a foil, and all the others are matte. Here you have a foil, and here you have a shimmer, and the other two are matte. Here you have a foil, and the other two are matte. I like, the sort of mixing and matching of textures here and the sort of arrangement in this eyeshadow palette, because I feel that, palettes have become very boring these days, and it's all warm neutrals, warm neutrals, warm neutrals, more warm neutrals. The Norwegian palette, for instance, has 3 purple shades and 14 eyeshadows, all the others being warm neutrals, or, cool neutrals, at least neutrals. So in this case, it's nice to have some fun colors to play with. Again, there are some neutrals in here, such as these, to help transition, to help, provide bases and, wearable shades. There's a basic black. So there are wearable shades. What I find here is that this is essentially a wearable palette with wearable colors and some pops of neon. Now, this one is definitely neon, and so is this blue here, and so is this green here. Apart from these 3, I don't see scary shades as such. Then you have, an ice purple. You've seen ice blues, obviously. This one is an ice purple, which I am wearing in my inner corners for this look even as we speak. I'll demo that a bit later, as I said. Now, I am going to swatch as many shades as possible. I doubt I can swatch everything. So these are all the swatches together. And as you can see, there are about 4 pops of, really bright, sort of neonish shades, if you like. 4 sort of frosty colours, and pretty much everything else is kind of workable. And the 2 broken eyeshadows are the ones that you can see in the top left-hand corner in row 1 and row 2 on the left extreme. I don't think they swatched too badly, did they? So we'll start with, I'm going to need to refer to this, 1, 3. So that's what the swatch looks like. So that's the first one. And, oh dear, now to get that swatch out with a wipe. And wipe on a dry paper towel as well. Huge thanks to Cassie of Southeast by Midwest for that idea. Now we'll do 1, 4. I really like 1, 4 there. That is Princess Diana's eyeliner right there. And then let's do 2, 1. No, 2, 2, which is a very smoky, very, very smoky eggplant purple. That's a shade. 2, 4 in New Romantics is the icy purple that I am wearing in my inner corners right now. That's what it looks like. That's 3, 2. I'm not a huge fan of 3, 2. And now let's do 3, 3, which is a very bright red. Coralish red. No, it is a proper red. Very nice. Uh, 3, 4 is next. That's kind of like the foilish version of the one below it. Now let's move to this hand. 4-2 is up next. It's a mild wearable purple, muted. Next, let's do 4-4, which is an icy peach. Some icy, sort of frosty shades in here. This is a frosty peach. And then let's move to 4-6. So not quite, the same shade there. This one's more berry, this one's more red. And now let's move on to the teals. No, before that, let's do 5-2. Okay, 5-2 looks appalling. And it isn't a shade I would wear. Now 5-1. 5-1 right on top here. Now let's do 5-3, which is the ultimate frosty teal blue. 5-4 is next, a darker teal. And that's matte. Ooh, very nice. I'll just wipe my fingers a bit, otherwise we're going to have cross-contamination of colors. This is a much better tip. Huge thanks again to Cassie of Southeast by Midwest. She said that, after using a wet towel to wipe your fingertips, use a paper towel, a dry one, and then you won't have the problem of, struggling with swatches. Now let's do 6-1. That's this one. That's quite frosty. I doubt I can pull that one off on my skin tone, except maybe on the under eyes or something. Now 6-2 promises to be a nicer green. That's 6-2. So very quickly, all the swatches. I'm not sure how well I can pull off some of the frostier, this one, for instance, very frosty, and this one as well. I don't know how far I can pull off these frosty shades on my skin tone, but, at least they look all right in the inner corners, like this one. That's how I made this one work. That is, hang on, it's somewhere here. I should have worn a dress with shorter sleeves for this. Yeah, this one. So, yeah, this one. And it's very frosty, as you can see. It's an ice purple or ice lilac. And that is in minor corners. So you can make these work. And you need not let these colors scare you. So if these do scare you, there's a 1990s palette, which is a lot less scary. It's very purple themed. Or there's also the noughties palette, the 2000s. This one is very neutral, very, very neutral, warm neutral to be precise. So a collaboration to die for, one with very happy associations and happy memories for me. So I do admit that some of these eyeshadows do feel a little dry to the touch, not the mattes, some of the foils and the shimmers particularly, but they do swatch all right, so that's not so bad. I mean, this isn't, anything to complain about. And I will have another all swatch thing, still swatch photograph right up. So that's a still swatch photograph. You can see that the quality is right up there. No problems with the pigmentation at all, no complaints whatsoever. As I said, some are a little dry to the touch. Again, they perform well on the eyelids as well. So no problems at all there. And 27 eyeshadows for £10. I know the pan size is a little smaller than normal, but I prefer that. I prefer getting more eyeshadows with smaller pans than fewer eyeshadows with larger pans, because it's very, very rare that I hit pan on an eyeshadow palette unless it's in a very neutral color. So I'd like to have more in smaller pans. The problem though is that you may not always be able to get one of the very fluffy brushes in there without kicking up a bit of powder. So smaller brushes would help. That's one of the problems that could arise. Again, this is workable. It's not and the design, this is supposed to look like an equalizer, so you can't really do much else. You can't have one huge equalizer pan there with just the one color. Now first I'm going to apply this one, that is 3-1, all over the lids. It's a shade that sort of blends into my skin tone, so I'm going to apply, what is the shade name now? 2-2, that is this one, all over the crease. Now, as a rule, I do my eye makeup first and the rest of my face last. However, while testing out eyeshadow palettes, I find that the other way around helps, so you can see how much fallout is on your cheekbones. So far, so good in terms of fallout. Now I'm going to go in with 2-3, which is this one, all over the lids. Now this one would need a smaller, stiff brush. Sigma domed utility brush, number E34, should be enough. I received these Sigma brushes for review. This eyeshadow is a bit dry to the touch, but it comes out alright, so I'm not, too fussed. Now to blend out the edges a bit. Some fallout here. So that's the major part of the eyes done. Now I want some lilac right in the middle. So this is 2-4. I think this shade can also go in the inner corners. Now for the brow bone, I'm going to go in with my first base shade, that is 3-1, and get that here for some definition, that's all. So if you are looking for an absolutely fun packaging, a collectible keepsake, if you're a fan of the Now Music label, if you have memories of those, if you remember those lovely compilations, if you are a fan of rock, classic rock or dance music, then you need these in your life. And if you don't like these colors, then you may like the 1990s purples or the warm neutrals of the noughties. These are available worldwide. I shall hit the link for these in the description box below, and I highly recommend them because, I haven't been this excited about a palette in a long time, and these and Huda Beauty's gemstone palettes have sort of taken me out of a palette rut in which I was, which is why, I recently recorded an anti-haul video, which I'm too scared to publish because, repercussions and hate. So it will lead to, controversy and unpleasantness. And every palette that comes out now pretty much looks like another that's already been there before. So that is why I love this, because, we haven't seen a packaging like this before. We haven't seen an equalizer like this before. We haven't seen this set of colors before. We haven't seen this arrangement before. And I love that, if you want to do a purpley look, here is everything you need. And if you want to do a green look, here's everything you need, that sort of thing. And these are not, the sort of khaki greens or the olive greens that we keep seeing all the time. These are proper greens, green greens. Now, these are the green swatches, so you can see they're neither olive nor khaki there. And, this color here, this one is to die for. I don't even think I own it at all in my stash, and I have more than 50 eyeshadow palettes. So absolutely loved this, absolutely love owning it, absolutely loved recording this, absolutely love playing with it and doing eye makeup looks with it. We'll be doing more makeup looks with this as we go along. I'll talk about my looks in each video so you can see how far I've used this palette. So again, link to buy is in the description box below. I highly recommend these. They're collectibles, they're massive. I don't know why they haven't got, more love or more fame. Maybe it's because they're very new. Because the only other rock-ish palette that we've seen before is the Bon Jovi. which was absolute genius. Again, fun packaging. I do wish there were more, rock star colors in there, because no rock star worth his or her salt is going to wear neutral colors on their eyelids, no. So I don't understand why brands aren't doing, more palettes such as these, rock and maybe country or hip-hop themed, rather than, the same old set of warm neutrals without any particular theme. Very nice collaboration. That genius idea from Revolution Beauty. And see, I know that they have been doing a lot of dupes. I know they began as a duping brand, but they've come into their own, particularly this year, and there have been a lot of original palettes and other products from them. And when they do original palettes, they absolutely rock, pun unintended. This is not a paid post or a sponsored post, nor is this a PR sample bought by me, paid for by me entirely. So that's all from me for today. Thank you for watching this video. Please do give me a thumbs up, and please do hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell, and I'll speak to you soon.